Oh look, there's a site that labels YouTube channels political views. I'm sure it'll be totally unbiased and nonpartisan. Yeah. I saw this video Comics Division did about this site called Transparency Tube. It appears to be an aggregate site that uses an algorithm to label different YouTube channels along political lines. The idea, as explained on the site, is to quote, categorize, index, and analyze over 8,000 of the largest English language YouTube channels actively discussing political and cultural views, and provide the data necessary to better understand this space. If that sounds like bullshit, that's because it probably is. Like Comics Division pointed out in his video, this really seems like a way of labeling channels to get them targeted, censored, and removed by claiming they're hosting far-right ideas. How else do you explain labeling Jordan Peterson's return video as right-wing and anti-SJW? The man talks about his health and his status and how everyone supported him, and even has this moment where he admits that he probably wouldn't have done the same thing for the people who helped him, which is a testament to his character that he would not only admit that, but that he would even think about it. How in the world is that partisan in any way? It's not pro this or anti that. He's just giving an update. So the way this thing works is that it uses AI to detect the political and cultural views expressed in videos, and then applies labels to the channels reflecting those findings. What could go wrong? Besides the AI lacking any concept of nuance, context, sarcasm, or satire, or the AI being programmed with a partisan bias to label certain content a certain way regardless of the overall nature and intent of the channel, or the AI simply doing a terrible job trying to apply 14 so-called fine-grained labels to channels that discuss multiple topics. After all, Transparency Tube was created to, quote, help journalists, researchers, and the curious better understand YouTube's political landscape. Because I'm sure neither the media, researchers, or the so-called curious have any political agendas whatsoever. Of course, all of this wasn't left to the AI to determine. Quote, about 800 channels were manually tagged by 3 or more reviewers as part of the prior work completed by Mark Ledwidge and Anna Zaitsev to study YouTube's recommendation algorithm. The tags defined in the study were chosen to account for the significant cultural discussions that accompany traditional political discussions on the platform. And they go on to provide a list of the labels, and they're totally unbiased, like grouping Milo Yiannopoulos and Tim Pool as anti-SJW, and Sam Harris as anti-theist, because atheist apparently wasn't a clearer, shorter word that describes the exact same thing. And my favorite, Karen Strawn as a sole men's rights activist, focusing on seeing men as the oppressed sex, and apparently not completing her sentences. This is looking so good, so I decided to look my channel up. And wouldn't you know, I'm labeled as right-wing and anti-SJW. Except, I'm not right-wing. I'm not conservative at all. My views place me dead center on the left, which I've said several times in my videos. So I decided to contact Mark Ledwidge and his team to get this corrected, because if you're going to defame my character, at least do it right. Because that's where this is going. Comics Division is dead on in that regard. This really does come across as an attempt to create a list of people to axe should the time come, labeling those who question far-left ideas in the most partisan ways, which will then be used by certain people to target those channels for censorship, harassment, or deletion. We've watched this happen before, and that's where it's always gone. And given how Mark has replied to people questioning him, I suspect that was his intention. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. So I sent this email to let it be my first, and hopefully final, word on the matter. I discovered that you created a site to track the political nature of various YouTube channels, and label them as you see fit. I checked, and it appears that you have labeled my channel, Just Some Guy, right and anti-SJW. My political views align to the left, and I've stated numerous times on my channel that I am neither Republican, conservative, nor have I voted for any right-leaning politicians. I will assume that this error in categorization occurred as a result of whatever flaws exist in the algorithm used to collect the data, and was not an intentional, partisan misrepresentation of my views. Either way, I want you to correct the inaccurate label you put on my channel, and change it to reflect my actual left-leaning position. Liberal or classical liberal will suffice. I am also aware of your response to Weaponized Nerd Rage when he challenged you labeling him right-wing when he's a libertarian. So let me make this abundantly clear. You don't decide my political views. I do. And I'm informing you that my views are left-leaning. You will correct your site to accurately reflect my political views. And, just in case you decide to get clever, I'm black, and it would be ill-advised for you to label me as any sort of white nationalist, white supremacist, or alt-right identitarian in retaliation. Correct the label with liberal or classical liberal, and I will consider the matter settled. Persist in the misrepresentation of my opinions, and our next conversation will be less polite.